Okay, so here we are at last, the kind of long-awaited Ducati Panigale V4. Been teased about this bike for probably 6 months or so now. We're going to hit the track here in Valencia today and see if we can put this 214 horsepower, I don't know if I've said that enough times, see if we can put this 214 horsepower bike to the test around this tight twisting track. If Ducati have done their job right, we're going to feel like gods. If they've done their job wrong, we'll be in the fences over there. Let's go and find out. So we finished the day here at Valencia. We've done 5 track sessions on board the V4 Panigale. We did most of our riding was on the V4S with the Öhlins suspension. We did a session each as well on the V4 Speciale. One thing I'm going to say is 226 horsepower is awesome. There is no other word for it. It is incredible. The hardest bit is holding on to the damn thing, and in a different way. The old Panigale, you fought it, you wrestled it around the track. This thing, there's no fighting, there's no wrestling. You're just struggling to hold on to it, just out of sheer G-force. The way it lays down the power out of a turn and the aggression and the force with which you can break into the corners, it's nothing short of breathtaking. From the very first session, that V4 makes everything so much easier. Every rider came in from the first session surprised at how easy the bike was to ride, how quickly they felt at home on it. And that's a lot to say about a 1000cc bike around this Valencia track. Valencia is known for being tight, technical, a bit awkward. All the corners are second and third gear. But hit today on the V4, everyone's found the bike a dream. It's so easy to ride and the performance is simply staggering. The slide control systems, instant GP god. It's like talent in a box. You go around the long last left-hander and you just sit the throttle as wide open as you want and the bike just comes out slightly and just sits there against the orange light flashes on the dash. You look like a hero, big black line around the corner. It's incredible. And the extra confidence you're afforded by these systems. So the cornering ABS, you can put the bike into the turn, brake hard as you're turning in, and if you overstep the mark, the ABS catches it for you. So you'd think with a bike like this, big power figures, new V4 engine, you'd think everything would be dominated by that engine and that power. But the real surprise here, the real bit that everyone has been blown away by, is the, I don't want to say intuitive handling, because that sounds a little bit cliche, it's a little bit pretentious, but it is intuitive. You know, you go into a corner, doesn't matter how fast you go in, you look for the apex and the thing just peels itself round to the apex. The front end is so solid. They've got a 54% front weight bias, maybe 53%. It's really heavily biased to the front wheel. And the thing just turns in and makes an apex and you just push harder and harder and harder. And every time you turn your head, the bike drops in and the thing just hunts the apex. It doesn't feel like you're riding a big 1000cc bike. It feels like a sports bike, a super sports bike, until of course you get out the other side. And as well as that, with the new counter-rotating crankshaft, it actually holds the line really well on the throttle. This is another thing the engineers and the test riders were saying is a real crucial point to that crankshaft, is you get on the gas hard and instead of the bike squatting and pushing wide, it almost feels like it tightens its line up and you just end up going faster and faster into and out of corners until your arms are like jelly and your eyeballs have fallen out of your head. So 226 horsepower on the Speciale, that's a lot of horsepower to be stopping at the end of the straight. Valencia works the brakes pretty hard. You're on them hard at the end of the start straight, second turn. There's a lot of hard braking around this track. And actually, they've got new Brembo monoblock calipers. They're 70 grams lighter than the old ones. And exactly as you'd expect from very top spec Brembo brakes. Consistent, powerful performance for the whole of the session. Doesn't matter how hard you push it, how ham-fisted you are on the brakes. You've got nice, solid, consistent lever feel time after time. The only limit with the braking is the old jelly arms. It really is one of those bikes you are braking so hard on it by 6 laps. You need some good fitness to be hanging on to it. So styling. So Ducati has to look good. And yeah, it's fair to say the Panigale has kind of probably split a few opinions over the years, not as much as maybe the old 999s did, but I still think the Panigale is a stunning bike. A lot of people were surprised that Ducati retained the Panigale name and the Panigale look despite changing to a V4. And that probably sums up best their their vision for this bike. It is meant to be an evolution of the Panigale. It's not a whole new, complete different take on Ducati's hyperbike. The Panigale V4 is a Panigale, true and true. It feels like a Panigale, but an evolution, a step on. I feel like I've just waxed lyrical about this new Panigale, but sorry, that's the truth. It's a damn good bike. And if anyone can come here and ride around this Valencia circuit and moan about the bike, then check your pulse, there's something wrong with you. It is an incredible bike. There's always niggles, there's always things that crop up, personal taste, personal feels. I definitely felt the only thing that bugged me about the bike all day was the quick shifter. It has a clutchless up and down gear shift, as most of the new superbikes do. The downshift works absolutely incredibly. Just brake, tap the gears down, it does all the blipping, does all the engine brake control, and then you turn in. On the way up the gears, particularly if the wheelie control or traction control was kicking in, I did find a few times the upshift was a bit hesitant and the bike kind of bogged as I tried to get up the gears. I got to qualify that. Throughout the day, it got better and better. So I really think it's one of those things you have to learn. You can't just get on the bike and be perfect on the quick shifter straight away. But by the end of a day's riding, you've kind of learned the system and learned the feel of it, and you start avoiding those missed shifts. What it's done, this bike, is it's brought very, very high performance and very fast lap times accessible to all riders. And it was real clear on the track today. We had a huge mix of riders and abilities on the group. And if you caught up with a slower rider, as you came out of the corner, if he had the inclination to pin the throttle to the stop, you couldn't get past him. It doesn't matter how fast you were, because the bike just does all the work for you. I think in years to come, we're going to look back at this bike and see it as the one that moved on-track performance onwards. If you want to buy a bike tomorrow and go really, really fast around the track, that is the one for the job. That bike will make you a riding god.